So I had to ask myself, can you choose yourself even when your skin is causing you hell? I couldn't answer yes to that. If you cannot answer that question, can you answer this? What type of person do you want to be? My girls, my guys, my group. This is MG Method, the show. Okay, hi, my name is Maxine Goynes. I am the host of MG Method, the podcast. Thank you for so many of you that listen to the podcast on a regular basis, that have taken time to share the podcast with people that you love and care about. And thank you for those of you that are new here, and this is the first time that you're finding the group. We here at MG Method, we like to say my girls, my guys, my group, because it's our podcast and it's a conversation amongst all of us, and you are a part of the group. And so we're super fortunate to have you. If you listen to the podcast on a regular basis, you may notice that we often have a guest on the podcast. We love to see and listen to how people think, how they move in the world, how they have uniquely decided to craft their life. But sometimes it calls for a solo episode. And the intention of the solo episodes are for us to take time to reflect and audit and check in how we think. One of the philosophies that we have here at MG Method is that the individual affects the collective and the collective affects the individual. So sometimes our exploration and playfulness and curiosity comes from our own unique life experience. And I like to share that with you about what's going on in my life and share some of the feedback that I get from you via Instagram or in conversation, and probe an invitation. It doesn't mean that I have the answers. I am not going to sit here as an expert. It means that I'm going to be curious about the way that I live and the way that we live. And I want us to think about some things. And if you hear something today and you're like, I haven't thought about that, or I would like to explore that a little bit more, I'll have to check in and see how that applies to my life or what I feel. I ask you to take time to do so. It's only when we start to figure out how we want to craft our own life and how it feels with us and within us can we actually really shape something super beautiful for all of us. So we know that when you feel great, we feel great, and it's a good place to start. And so I wanted to just talk about some of the things that have been on my heart and top of mind. If you're watching this video via YouTube, we ask that you subscribe here on YouTube. This is a new element for us, but we wanted to bring in that visual component because we know that many of you are creatives and you're artists and you are visual learners. So we wanted to make sure that we honor that here on this channel for you as well. We have mgmethod.com. On mgmethod.com, that's our home base. So there we like to share insight with you about new episodes, but we also occasionally like to put new recipes or guided breath work or movements. We like to refer you to several brands or products that we think could actually add great benefit to your life. So signing up on our email list is a great way to stay in contact with us, and then also to get early access when we do move to those in-person events or speaking panels. We want the community to be able to have unique offerings that we extend to you first and foremost as being a loyal listener and member. So make sure that you're on that email list if you haven't had a chance to do so. Recently, I was asked to go to the USC Own It panel, and this panel was, the intention of the panel is to bring guests in, specifically women or people non-binary, to speak about their life, some of their obstacles, how they have created success in their life. And one of the topics that kind of kept getting brought up and repeated was this idea that I had already known my voice. One of the questions asked is like, how do you have confidence to know your voice? And how do you feel like if you're still navigating in your life who you are, how do you be able to participate in the world really confidently? And I went home and I started thinking about this idea, and I felt like man, one of the things I didn't get to share and that I get to share with you now is my courage has always preceded my confidence. I, in most scenarios, don't particularly feel that I'm ever ready, right? And I know many of you feel this way too. So we say something like this in our head, we have an opportunity that presents itself and we say, well, I don't know if I'm ready yet. I don't know if I'm qualified. I don't really know if I have enough money. I don't really know if I am skinny enough. I don't know if I'm pretty enough. I don't know if I am a person in a position of power enough to share my insight. And so that conversation, that dialogue is something that prevents us from showing up fully. And what I wanted to share with you is oftentimes I still have that fear and I observe when that thought comes up, but it is my courage that I try to lead with. It is feeling afraid, but going anyway. And once I am able to step into that courage and say, you know what, I want to go to this panel and I want to speak, even though I feel like I am still learning, or I want to go to this event because I want to actually create connection with people that I love and my people that are close to me, even though I might not feel like I'm in the best shape of my life. And at the root of this question, how do you move with confidence in the world? It's that you quickly realize that it's also connected to your courage. And so some of the ways that I do that is by asking myself, will I regret not participating in this thing? And what is it that I value? And what do I hope to offer? And sometimes that allows me to be suspended from my fear for enough time to make a choice that ultimately is what I want. And I think that many of you are still navigating, what career path you want, what type of family you'd love to have, where do you want to live in the world, and what is your unique point of view. And it doesn't mean that you have all of those answers. It means that you're willing to step into your courage, even when you don't feel comfortable, and especially when you don't feel comfortable, because we never really feel ready. I know I haven't. I know that when I think about the things in my life that called me into greatness and the things that asked me to expand and grow, I never felt like, okay, you know what? I'm ready to go. I'm fully qualified. I'm fully credible. I'm in a great position to be here. I always felt a little tingle in my gut that I could do that. I felt that I was worthy of doing it, but I was afraid. And so it's reminding yourself that you deserve to grow and you deserve to expand. And growth and expansion requires that we actually bring forward our courage. So if you're not sure how to feel confident, don't expect to be. Just know that when you put the repetition in of your courage, that's what helps you develop confidence over time. And I think it's almost in your favor to not always feel confident, because when we don't, we end up finding a way to continue to ask more questions, and that keeps us empathetic, it keeps us super humble, it keeps us grounded, and it keeps us able to be dynamic, because we don't think we've got it all figured out. I don't have it all figured out, and you don't have to either. Two specific things come into mind. One, it's having the courage to take the time to think about what you want and then share that with people that you love, a support group, because that support group will invite you to step into it. So somebody that knows your dreams for your life and what you guys are hoping to build or achieve or do. And so when you feel sometimes like, hey, I'm not sure, or I might need a nudge, it's other people and the group that can support you and say, hey, Max, I know that one of the things that you had said is that you want to be able to scale your support for people, and going to a speaking event might allow you to do that. It might be, I am really working on X in my life, and so one of the ways that I could use your support is this, and that way you have some sort of accountability, because we subconsciously are going to try to stay safe. We're going to try to do everything that we can to protect our hearts and make us feel like we don't feel exposed or threatened or vulnerable. And our ego sometimes will say, hey, don't do that. There's risk involved there. But who could you include in your life that would help you be reminded of the reward? Because I know for me, many times I think about the risk. It's very easy for me to say, oh my goodness, you could go to this event and you could completely flop on this thing, or you could lose this thing. But like, what are the people around you that can help remind you of the things that you could gain, the things that you could create, the things that you could craft? Because that is just as valuable. And it's not our natural inclination to remember the gain. It is our natural inclination to protect ourselves from that pain. So we do lean towards the fear, and that's okay, but we recognize that that's our body and mind and nervous system trying to protect ourselves. And so the second thing that I would say is, let's incorporate systems. And our systems are the things that help remind us about what it is that we claim that we want. I have a huge whiteboard that I keep in my room, and I wrote things down that I want to craft for not only myself, but for people that I love and this very group. And when I wake up, I see that whiteboard, and I didn't have that the year before. I kind of was feeling like I want to be a creative person. And I know many of you say this, I want to go with the flow. I want to just figure out whatever's meant for me will align. And that's okay. But at the same time, I think that there is opportunity to still be a free spirit, to still be able to call into adventure and spontaneity, but with accountability and structure that helps recognize our natural inclination is to come here and sometimes play small, but our intuition and our heart is really most gorgeous when we're expansive. So what ways can you expand? And if you feel like this is something that you're working on with your confidence, maybe one of the things you can do is take out a pen and paper and say, I have been avoiding, and see what invitations lie in the things that you've been avoiding. Y'all, we have to talk about self-worth and readiness. And this week, many of you, I was able to see the truth and beauty in the group, because my sense of self and my evaluation of my worth was able to be reflected in the mirror that is you. I want to share something with you because I just had a good little cry in my car. And so I went on Instagram and I shared with you that I had got invited to go to this event and that I was terrified to go because I was having a hormonal breakout. I have struggled with, not even struggled, but been really challenged by cystic acne, adult acne, having taken birth control for many years to try to help regulate what were crippling cramps in college. As an athlete, I really took that birth control and it essentially was a Band-Aid for my hormones because I never really got to the root of the problem. And so I had been going to an esthetician, working on supporting my hormonal health, and I still found myself at a very low sense of understanding of my value in the world. You are still trying to navigate your hormone health. And I almost did not go to this event this morning because I was so self-conscious about my skin. And so it's easy to feel like you are on top of the world when things feel great, when money is flowing in, or your skin is glowing, or you have been feeling like you're on top of all your to-do or organization or productivity or whatever it may be. But I realized that when my self-worth is connected to something outside of me, when those things outside of me become really fragile, really rocky, I started to question my value. And I went to that event because I asked myself the question, do people deserve your energy? Do they deserve to get to know who you are as a person? And I realized through having this conversation with you on Instagram that many people are not judging us like we judge us. We know this. We are really tough critics sometimes, but people are willing to receive us when we are able to choose ourselves. And so I had to ask myself, Maxine, can you choose yourself even when your skin is causing you hell? And I couldn't answer yes to that. I really couldn't. I started to figure out, if you cannot answer that question, can you answer this? What type of person do you want to be? And I thought to myself, I want to be a woman who is resourceful, that when I experience a problem in my life, I actually go and find a way to get new information, to try new things, and that I never, ever, ever give up hope. I never give up the potential that this thing can turn around, that we could have a new experience, that if I did something different, if I sought out new insight, that insight would help me find the grace and kindness and patience that is necessary to evolve. And that I could answer yes to. And so I was able to recognize that I needed to see me and I needed to understand my value in the world. And sometimes it takes things being pulled out from underneath you to remind you that it's a constant practice. It's not something that we do for a little bit and then we reach a spot and we're like, hey, I'm good. I know my self-worth. It's something that we pour into every day because we are so often programmed to believe that if you get all the external things right, then and only then you are worthy of intimacy and connection and belonging and love. And in fact, it is the opposite. It is when you have that gratitude and that patience and that grace amongst grit, amongst really challenging times, that's when we mold and shape our character. And that's when we get to decide, how do I want to live and who do I want to be? And so I hope that as you are navigating your life and you're figuring out, what things am I basing my self-worth in? Is it my job title? Is it my ability to have children or a family? Is it me making a certain amount of money? Is it me living in a certain environment? That you start to really take time to reflect and see, what are the things that cannot be taken from me that I want to respect and honor and pour into? Because when I do those things and I show up for those intangibles, that's what helps me stay connected to my worth. So it's never about me needing to be ready. I am already worthy. That's not to say that if you are challenged by external things that you can't use it as an opportunity to ask for help. Because sometimes when we are trying to feel worthy, we don't recognize that sometimes we need support and that we can go to ask for guidance, ask for, hey, this is an area that's really weighing on me. And I know that you really love, and I went online and I said, this is something that I'm challenged with. And many of you were able to support that. And also, even in that support, it made me trust my ability to look things up, to go online and start reading, to start educating myself on what is hormonal acne or why is that happening? And part of the frustration comes because we don't understand something. We maybe don't understand what's happening, and it makes us feel powerless and we feel like we don't have control. And so when we can remember that we have things like Google or our phones or our friends or our community, and that we can get a helping hand to help say, let's bring light here. Because right now I'm in a dark place in this area of my life, and I wanna bring forward my knowledge. And when I bring forward my knowledge, it will help teach me patience, because I then realized a lot of people are navigating an influx with their hormones. And so I wasn't alone. It wasn't the only person going through this. And then I was able to have a kindness that expanded, because I knew, wow, there's many people that are going through this and they're trying to figure out their hormones, or they're trying to figure out an area of their life. And it's okay that we look to find resolution, but sometimes that takes time in that transition. And so using that time to be able to get new insight so that we feel that we are able to use our courage, as we mentioned earlier, that really helps us be able to connect to our worth. Like, you might say, I'm this, I believe that I'm this, but maybe my behaviors show that I don't fully believe it. Maybe part of the belief or the journey is that when I do believe it, I start behaving in a way that affirms that belief is true. Because now that I believe that, I really believe it, then I'm able to take the steps to go and look up the things that I need. And I'm able to fight for those things that I need. And so sometimes you might say in theory out loud, oh, I believe that I'm worthy. But our actions don't actually back up that belief is true. So you say, okay, Max, I believe that I'm worthy of being in a romantic relationship with somebody that respects me, that, prioritizes me, because I think I'm worthy of that. But then maybe you are finding yourself sitting around and waiting to see if someone texts you back, or waiting to see if they invite you to go to an event, or waiting to see if they want to spend time with you. So you've said in theory that you believe it, but your behavior would show that that might not be true. So I invite you to explore, what would my behavior look like if I believed that I was worthy of being with somebody who would show up wholeheartedly for me? Would I be sitting around waiting for them to text me, or would I be going out and enjoying the things that I enjoy? And would I be spending time with people and doing activities that light me up? And then people can align with that frequency. So sometimes in our head, we think something, but our actual energy is not there. Our frequency isn't there. And so maybe we want to value that we are worthy, but there are narratives that we have to still explore, because we would put up safeguards that help your behavior support your belief. And so sometimes I would say, if you're writing, this is what I value and this is what I believe, then what actions next to your beliefs do you take on a regular basis to show that that belief is true? Let's say for me, as someone who's wanted to act, I was I want to be an actress. I'm deserving of telling stories. I want to do that. But I didn't have any action towards doing that. So I thought about it the other day, and I was like, okay, I'm saying that I want to be an actress. If I believe that I'm worthy of contributing to a story, what is the behavior that I need to take in order to reaffirm my belief that I am able and worthy of contributing to a story? I started DMing directors. I started writing directors and DMing them, hey, my name is Maxine. I live in Los Angeles. I'm an actress. I'm working to expand my portfolio and help contribute to stories. If you need somebody that can volunteer to help with a project, please keep me in mind. I'm available. Nobody would come and just knock on my door and just say, hey, Max, it's you, If you believe that you're worthy of doing something, then you also have to take action to do the things that help that make that happen. If you feel that you're worthy of health in your life, then what is the action that you can take? Maybe you just commit to taking a daily walk and taking the daily walk outside, because the daily walk, the behavior reaffirms the belief that you are worthy of whole health. And so they are closely connected. Our beliefs and our actions are closely connected. And I think that there's some really great people in this space that do some work about this and understanding our energy. One of the first people that I found online years ago is Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's fantastic, and he was someone that I used in my life to be able to say, okay, instead of me chasing and grabbing and pretending that I felt a certain way, how could I create that high frequency energy that aligns me with the things that I claim that I want in my life? And so I could meet my future self if I was able to understand what I value and know that there is a new way forward, that it's possible. And so sometimes that thing that we're looking for is new questions that help us know that a new state of being is possible, that it exists, that you could design your life, that you could ask yourself, how do I want to feel? And what does that feel like vibrationally? What type of energy am I bringing forward into the world that helps me show that I'm in alignment, I'm consistent? If I want to tell stories, I'm going to fight to tell those stories, and I'm going to start to create a momentum that shows, hey, I'm ready to align with how that can be done. And so that's something that I play with often, and something that I think I want to extend to you as an invitation to say, how could you create your frequency to be in a space where you're able to say, I'm present here in the now, and I also understand that everything I need is already within me, but I want to access it and I want to be able to tap into it. And when I tap into it, it's going to just go ahead and like a magnet, bring me to the things that are also functioning at that frequency. One of the things that has just been apparent the last couple weeks is, man, we're just so blessed to be alive. Like, we are blessed to be able to fight another day, to be able to create another day. And so, like, we can make it fun, and we can make it sexy, and we can make it full of zest and flavor, and we can bring in soul and rhythm and flow. And so, what ways can you bring something that's like uniquely you into it? Is it music? Is it scent? Is it taste? Is it smell? Is it sight? The senses are a great grounding tool to bring us into this moment, but help us feel really great while we're doing it. And we don't have to solve all of the world's challenges and or ours. But as long as we're taking one tiny step forward, we say little things often. As long as we're taking those tiny little steps forward, that's what it's all about. Thank you for spending some of your time with me and with us, the group. We know how precious and fragile life is. And so every moment that we get to breathe and think and feel with you, it's something that we deeply cherish. If you found this episode to resonate, if you found it to be like, man, that's something I've been thinking of and something that I've been maneuvering in my own life, and you think that there's someone who could actually benefit from listening to this and then having a conversation with you about that and about what's going on in your life, we ask that you pass it on. So if you could subscribe below or share this episode, it would be greatly appreciated. And we hope to see you next time. If you haven't checked out the other episodes that we have available, I would highly suggest doing that. We'll have new episodes coming soon, but there's something for all of us in every single one. So we'll see you soon. My girls, my guys, my group.